Time now for Focus, and we have a report from the US a day before Alabama votes. The two people hoping to fill the Senate seat vacated by Attorney General Jeff Sessions are Democrat Doug Jones and Republican Roy Moore. This race matters because the Republicans have just a two-seat majority in the Senate, and it's been in the spotlight because of allegations of sexual misconduct against Moore, who's been endorsed by Donald Trump. Philip Crowther sent us this report.
Go Trump!
Pensacola in northwest Florida, right on the border with the state of Alabama, where the Senate race will be decided on Tuesday. It's a lonely place for the few protesters who oppose the Republican Senate candidate accused of sexual harassment and pedophilia.
It's disappointing but not surprising given the area where we live. It's very conservative and very Republican, and a lot of people have their blinders on and they can't see past what they believe.
Donald Trump supporters are digging in their heels, as are many Alabama voters who made the short trip to see the president.
All that's going on with Roy Moore is, I think, been staged, and I think it'll come out eventually that they're just trying to frame him.
More for Senate. Senators. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Donald Trump won Alabama in 2016 by 28% of the votes. And like Roy Moore in his state, Trump also faced many allegations of sexual misconduct.
It's sort of like when Trump, the comments were made about him. Now you hear nothing. All those women disappear.
Trump has largely managed to shake off the accusations now that he's in the highest office. His support could do the same for Roy Moore, endorsed by the U.S. president.
How many people here are from the great state of Alabama? We need somebody in that Senate seat who will vote for our Make America Great Again agenda. So get out and vote for Roy Moore. Do it. Do it.
Democrats see that as a man who has bragged about sexual assault on tape, endorsing a candidate accused of even worse. In next-door Alabama, Senate candidate Roy Moore is accused of sexual misconduct with teenage girls when he was in his 30s. Alabama is in the eye of a political storm, in a fight over its identity and whether party affiliation trumps morals. It's enough to make a lifelong Republican voter like Brent Philbrook in the town of Seminole decide to sit this one out.
I'm 66 years old, and I've never seen politics as they are today. How can a party let somebody like Moore run when they've known for the last, 30, 40 years that this man has been a deviant? I don't understand it. But then again, our president's the same way. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking and dealing with the political factor of it all. I don't even know what else to say.
A lot of soul-searching is happening in the country, in the state of Alabama, and in this one small town.
American girl wouldn't touch me even if you could.
Women, in particular, could make the difference in this election. 3 women work in the local diner and gas station. All 3 are in doubt.
I'd probably vote for the other gentleman if I was a voter, but I'm not a voter. But my daughter is.
I am a registered Republican voter. This election I'm not sure because Roy Moore, not Malone, sorry. He's a Republican, and with the situation with him saying all that stuff that's going on, I'm not sure exactly who to vote for. If I should continue to vote as a Republican or do a Democratic-wise.
The man who could get that vote is Doug Jones, the Democratic candidate. He has said his opponent belongs in prison.
We're seeing incredible enthusiasm. People are ready for a change.
People know that we have a unique opportunity in the state of Alabama.
Thank you, thank you. Hey, Roddy, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Thanks for coming tonight.
The last time Alabama sent a senator to Washington was a quarter of a century ago. The spotlight is indeed now on this one state in America's Deep South.
For more on this, I'm now joined by Gérald Olivier. He's a journalist working for Atlantico.fr, and he has a blog called France America. Hello, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Alabama is what you would call it's a red state, a very, very red state. Do the Democrats really stand a chance?
Not really, but a better chance today than they did 3 months ago. Everybody thinks that when you come to Alabama, the real race is the primary race. And so the real contest was between Roy Moore and Luther Strange, who was nominated by Jeff Sessions for his seat after he became Attorney General. This time, there is a contest because of the sexual allegations concerning Roy Moore. But as you very well said in your introduction, the race is larger than Alabama, because what's really at stake is the balance of power within the Senate. The Republicans hold a very slim majority right now, 2 seats, 52 to 48. If they were to lose one, it would make that majority even slimmer, and it would make it much more difficult for Donald Trump to get his program through.
So that's why he's endorsed Roy Moore, despite the allegations.
That's the main reason. The race is not about Alabama, or it's about Alabama's identity and how Alabamans view themselves. That's one side of the race. The other race is about Donald Trump and his program. Is he going to get it through? Remember, when they tried to repeal and replace Obamacare, they failed. Republicans failed because 3 senators changed sides. So now it would only take 2 and make it even more difficult. And that's what's at stake. And that's why, without fully endorsing Roy Moore, Donald Trump went to Pensacola. He didn't go to Alabama. He went just next door, right outside the borderline, to try to trigger some support for Roy Moore, but he didn't openly support the candidate because of those sexual allegations.
Now, we heard in the report people saying that there's been a conspiracy against Roy Moore. Why is it that so many Americans, or in this case, people from Alabama, believe that?
Well, you're in the Deep South, the heart of the South. You're into an area where, for the past 120 years, rules and laws have come from the North and from Washington, never for the interest of Alabamans, but rather trying to change Alabamans and make them fit into the mold of the nation. This country, I mean, the Civil War seems like another world away, but it's not that far away for those people. In your report, one of the people who was being interviewed had a Confederate flag in his bedroom. You see those everywhere. It's Alabama's identity. After the Civil War, Alabama was occupied militarily by federal troops. Then they managed to regain control. In the 1950s and 60s, with the civil rights movement, young white students from the North came again by bus to try and teach Alabamans how to live their life. Now they're being told once again by the mainstream media from Washington they shouldn't trust Roy Moore. And the way they feel is the more the mainstream media tells us what to do, the least we'll listen and follow, and the more we'll follow our heart. And Roy Moore is really the local guy, and to me he's going to win tomorrow.
So it would seem that it doesn't really matter what a candidate does. If you're a Republican voter, chances are you're going to vote for the Republican candidate no matter what. Some would say that that explains to some extent Donald Trump's victory as well, because there was so much criticism of him during the campaign. It seemed that whatever he said didn't stick. He was going to get the support of Republicans anyway.
Yeah, like as the report showed, the race is tighter today because of those allegations against Moore. However, if you look at the history of voting in Alabama, they voted for Trump in 2016, 64% more or less. In 2012, they voted for Romney, 62%. So whether the Republican candidate is a nationalist populist or whether that candidate is from the establishment, Alabama votes Republican.
So do you disagree then with the person in the report who's 66 and says that in his lifetime politics has changed a lot? It sounds like really it hasn't changed all that much then in Alabama.
It all depends how you look at it. It may look dirtier today than it was before. I'm not sure that it actually is. The language has been actually rather polished. Maybe the attitudes are actually less tolerant, but there is much more of a divide now. And people feel like they should indeed vote the party line because only their party will do what is in their own best interest. And in that sense, regardless of what you might say about Roy Moore is one of them. Roy Moore is a conservative, is a Bible Belt Republican. Most of those voters also are, and I think that's why they'll stick to him.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time and your analysis.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Olivier, thank you.